Coming up today, the world awaits the opening of the 2016 Olympics in Rio. Team Korea has already gotten off to a flying start, though, with the men's football team hammering Fiji in their first game. Korea's two main political parties are close to selecting their new leaders. Both are starting the process of thinning the field of candidates. First, Korea is set for its hottest day of the year so far. Seoul will hit a high of 36 degrees Celsius, and the rest of the country won't be too far behind. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's noon on Friday, the 5th of August. You're tuned in to our midday newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. We start our newscast this afternoon with the countdown to the 2016 Olympics in Rio. Now, the opening ceremony doesn't start for another 20 hours, but the sporting action has already started in earnest. South Korea's men's football team couldn't have asked for a better start, easily putting away Fiji in their opening match. For more on that and the rest of the day's action, Ian Shin reports.
Save the samba dancers, supermodels, and parade of nations for Friday's grand opening ceremony. With 8 group games taking place, Thursday was all about men's football. In an extremely promising start, South Korea put 8 goals past Fiji in their very first group match. The Korean team scored 7 times in the second half to easily beat the Pacific Island nation. Also in Group C, Germany and Mexico played out a 2-2 draw earlier in the day. Against South Africa, the host nation Brazil got off to a disappointing start with a goalless draw. South Korea has 2 more group matches coming up. Their next game will be against Germany on Sunday local time. After that, South Korea will play Mexico in the concluding group match next Wednesday. The group stage is set to last a week, with the top 2 teams from each group advancing to the quarterfinals, which begin on August 13th. With the opening ceremony less than 24 hours away, some 10,500 athletes from more than 200 nations are set to compete at this year's Olympics, which are being held in Latin America for the very first time. Ian Shin, Arirang News.
Now, a third of Russia's athletes will be banned from competing at the Rio Olympics after a state-sponsored doping scandal that has gone right to the wire of the opening day. The International Olympic Committee says 118 of Russia's 389 athletes will be prevented from taking part. 271, or roughly 70% of the national team, have been cleared and will get a chance to compete. The announcement comes on the eve of the opening ceremony of the Games. Now, the lineup of sports will be completely different in PyeongChang in 2018, but Korea knows it has a lot to learn from Rio as the 2016 Games prepare to kick off. The head of the PyeongChang Organizing Committee, who is in Brazil, says he will use the information and experience to ensure Korea puts on the best possible show in 2018. Shin Se-min reports from Rio.
While the focus of athletes, reporters, and fans are concentrated on Rio with the 2016 Olympics about to start, there are those looking a step ahead. Recognizing the focus will quickly switch to Korea's alpine town of PyeongChang after the curtain comes down on the Rio Games, the head of the local organizing committee for the 2018 Winter Games is positive everything will be in place on time.
First and foremost, I would like to assure you that our preparations are fully on track. I, together with my team, will work hard for success of the Games in 2018.
Speaking to reporters in Rio, Lee said the PyeongChang organizing team is focused on absorbing everything it takes to put on the best Olympics possible in 2018. Regarding fears of stadiums and other infrastructure becoming so-called white elephants after the Olympics are over, the chief of the PyeongChang Organizing Committee said they've learned from past examples and facilities will not fall into costly disrepair after the sporting event.
Gangwon province will be developed with the infrastructures, including high-speed railways and also expressways connecting from Incheon Airport to Gangneung, all the way to Gangneung. It takes about 90-some minutes, so it is the huge effect of the Olympic Games.
In the coming days and weeks, the PyeongChang organizing team will also meet with the organizers of the 2020 Tokyo Summer Games and the 2022 Beijing Winter Games. They plan to share their respective know-how to ensure Asia successfully pulls off the next 3 Olympics. With less than 2 years until the world shifts its focus to PyeongChang, the next host city of the Olympics, Korea's Olympic Organizing Committee is confident that the country's first ever Winter Olympics will be just as successful as any other. Shin Se-min, Arirang News, Rio de Janeiro.
Now, a potential meeting in Rio between the UN Secretary-General and North Korea's second-in-command is not going to happen after all. UN Chief KiMoon arrived in Brazil on Wednesday local time for the opening ceremony of the 2016 Olympics. Che Ryong-hae, widely considered leader Kim Jong-un's right-hand man, landed shortly after. However, Ban on Thursday ruled out meeting with Che as the UN Security Council just condemned North Korea for its recent ballistic missile launches. There had been some speculation the two could hold talks in Rio, as Ban has mentioned his desire to visit North Korea during his term, which ends this year. Now, in the rest of the day's news, South Korea's 2 main rival parties are edging ever closer to selecting their next party leaders. The ruling Saenuri Party and the main opposition Minju Party of Korea should have their respective leaderships in place before the end of this month. Our National Assembly correspondent Ji Myung-gil with the details.
The 5 candidates fighting it out to be the next chairman of the ruling Saenuri Party will on Friday hold their 3rd round of joint speech sessions. The 11 party members vying for one of the 6 vacant spots on the Supreme Council will also be busy drumming up support at the stadium in Cheonan, South Chungcheongnam-do Province. Among the 5 contenders for the party's top job, 2 have agreed to form an alliance and put forth one candidate based on the result of a public survey. The Saenuri Party is slated to elect its new leadership at its convention next Tuesday. The main opposition Minju Party of Korea will hold an in-house primary on Friday to whittle down the number of contenders from 4 to 3. The Minju Party will hold its national convention and select its new leader on August 27. The minor opposition People's Party plans to maintain its interim leadership under Park Ji-won until the end of the year. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Defense officials from South Korea, the United States and Japan have agreed to enhance cooperation and increase information sharing on future missile launches by North Korea. They came to the understanding during talks held Friday by video conference led by Seoul's Deputy Director General for International Policy. The officials acknowledged that North Korea's most recent ballistic missile launch earlier this week was a clear violation of UN resolutions and a threat to regional peace and stability. An appeals court in the United States has thrown out a lawsuit filed by a Japanese group that sought the removal of a Comfort Woman statue from Glendale Central Park in California. The Korean American Forum of California says the 9th U.S. Court of Appeals upheld a lower court ruling rejecting the request, saying the group's claims were false. The right-wing Japanese group, called the Global Alliance for Historical Truth, filed the suit in February of 2014. It claimed Japan's wartime sex slavery had not been proven and accused Glendale of infringing upon the federal government's exclusive power to conduct foreign affairs. Now, the Korean American Forum of California said the court's decision has encouraged them to establish more statues to honor the tens of thousands of women coerced into sexual slavery by the Japanese military before and during World War II. Korean shipping company Hyundai Merchant Marine is officially leaving the Hyundai Empire today after 40 years of business. It will be starting afresh as a subunit of its main creditor, Korea Development Bank. Park Jong-hong has more.
It was back in 1976 that the shipping company Hyundai Merchant Marine was launched by the late Hyundai founder and chairman Jong. Legend has it that Jong built the company from scratch by convincing foreign investors that he would build their ships. The firm really took off when it merged with Shinhan Shipping, a company founded by the father of the current Hyundai Group chairwoman Hyun Jung-eun. It once rose to be the world's 8th largest shipping line, but faltered during the global recession and amid crippling liquidity problems. While it managed to avoid bankruptcy following painstaking corporate restructuring, its ownership has been handed over to the state-run Korea Development Bank.
We decided this would be in the best interest of the company and all the shareholders and would minimize losses.
Now being reborn as a subsidiary of Korea Development Bank, experts say the biggest challenge is restoring credibility and business capacity.
I believe the company must be led by a competent and convincing CEO who can deliver on the interests of both KDB and Hyundai Merchant Marine.
Creditors plan to scour the world for a new CEO and have the new chief in place by early next month. With the departure of Hyundai Merchant Marine, Hyundai Group, once Korea's largest conglomerate, has further retreated in the ranks. It now has less than 10 trillion won, or roughly $9 billion in assets, meaning it no longer qualifies as one of the country's leading business groups. Park Jong-hong, Arirang News.
Korea's minimum wage for 2017 has been set. The Labour Ministry announced Friday that it will be 6,471 or $5.80 an hour. The hourly rate is 7.3% higher than this year. It means workers will earn about $46 a day or $1,200 a month if they work 8 hours daily. Now, since the Park administration took office in 2013, the minimum wage has been on a steady rise, but next year's figure slowed from the 8% hike for this year. The new wage is expected to apply to about 17% of all wage workers in Korea. That's about 3.8 million people. The redemption rate for the country's highest denominated bill is the lowest among all banknotes. The Bank of Korea says of the 11.2 trillion won, or about $10 billion worth of 50,000 won notes issued in the first half of the year, only $5.1 billion worth have found their way back to the central bank. And that means the return ratio in the January to June period was 50.7%. Although that's higher than the 40% from the same period last year, the return rate is still the lowest of all the other bills. The rate was more than 110% for 10,000 won bills and about 94% for 5,000 won banknotes. The lower the figure, the less the money is circulating in the general financial system. The low return rate of the 50,000 won note raises concerns that the money could be flowing into the underground economy. Now, with most of the country still under a heat wave advisory or warning, Korea is bracing for what's expected to be the hottest day of the year so far. Korea's weather agency says the highs across the country will range from 28 to 36 degrees Celsius, with Seoul and Daejeon both expected to top out at a sweltering 36. The tropical nights are expected to continue for a while as well. Due to the steamy conditions, the ozone concentration levels will rise in the Midwest and down south. Experts advise people to refrain from outdoor activities and avoid driving if possible. Now, the bad news keeps mounting up for Donald Trump because a new group of polls shows Hillary Clinton has widened her lead over her rival Donald Trump after a rough couple of weeks for the billionaire businessman. The Wall Street Journal NBC News poll released on Thursday shows Clinton has a 9-point lead over Trump, 47% to 38%. And that's even larger than the 5-point rough 5-point lead she had in a previous poll conducted before the party conventions in July. And those results are echoed, even amplified, by a new McClatchy-Marist poll, which gives Clinton a whopping 15-point lead over Trump nationally. The poll also shows Clinton is now leading in the key Rust Belt states of Pennsylvania and Michigan. Support for Trump has wavered in light of his latest controversial remarks against the parents of a Muslim American soldier who was killed in the war in Iraq. Well, those are stories we've been following on this Friday afternoon here in Seoul. Have a great day, and if we don't see you, have a wonderful weekend. So until next time, goodbye.